Hello, fellow heirs. Welcome back to Weekday Wind Down with the Word, where we are reading through the book of Genesis. And today we will be reading the 50th chapter, the last chapter of Genesis, in the NLT version. So without any further ado, let's start reading. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept over him and kissed him. Then Joseph told the physicians who served him to embalm his father's body. So Jacob was embalmed. The embalming process took the usual 40 days, and the Egyptian mourned his death for 70 days. When the period of mourning was over, Joseph approached Pharaoh's advisors and said, "Please do me this favor and speak to Pharaoh on my behalf. Tell him that my father made me swear an oath. He said to me, 'Listen, I am about to die. Take my body back to the land of Canaan and bury me in the tomb I prepared for myself. So please allow me to go and bury my father. After this burial, I will return without delay.' Pharaoh agreed to Joseph's request. 'Go and bury your father, as he made you promise,' he said. So Joseph went up to bury his father. He was accompanied by all of Pharaoh's officials, all the senior members of Pharaoh's household, and all the senior officers of Egypt. Joseph also took his entire household and his brothers and their household, but they left their little children and flocks and herds in the land of Goshen. A great number of chariots and charioteers accompanied Joseph. When they arrived at the threshing floor of Atad, near the Jordan River, they held a great and solemn memorial service with 7 days period of mourning for Joseph's father. The local residents, the Canaanite, watched them mourning at the threshing floor of Atad. Then they renamed that place, which is near the Jordan, Abba Mizraim, for they said, 'This is a place of deep mourning for these Egyptians.' Jacob's sons did as he had commanded them. They carried his body to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre. This is the cave that Abraham had bought as a permanent burial site from Ephraim the Hittite. Joseph reassures his brothers. After burying Jacob, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had accompanied him to his father's burial. But now that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers became fearful. 'Now Joseph will show his anger and pay us back for all the wrong we did to him,' they said. So they sent this message to Joseph. 'Before your father died, he instructed us to say to you, please forgive your brothers for the great wrong they did to you, for their sin is treating you so cruelly. So we, the servant of God of your father, beg you to forgive our sins.' When Joseph received the message, he broke down and wept. Then his brothers came and threw themselves down before Joseph. 'Look, we are your slaves,' they said. But Joseph replied, 'Don't be afraid of me. My God, that I can punish you? You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. No, don't be afraid. I will continue to take care of you and your children.' So he reassured them by speaking kindly to them. The death of Joseph. So Joseph and his brothers and their families continued to live in Egypt. Joseph lived to the age of 110. He lived to see 3 generations of descendants of his son Ephraim, and he lived to see the birth of the children of Manasseh's son Micah, whom he claimed as his own. 'Soon I will die,' Joseph told his brothers, 'but God will surely come to help you and lead you out of this land of Egypt. He will bring you back to the land he solemnly promised to give Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob.' Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear an oath, and he said, 'When God comes to help you and lead you back, you must take my bones with you.' So Joseph died at the age of 110. Then Egyptians embalmed him, and his body was placed in a coffin in Egypt. And that concludes Genesis 50, which is the last chapter of Genesis. This is one of the chapters that really stands out to me because it reminds me of my favorite verse, and that's the first verse that God works out everything for the good of those that love him and are called according to his purpose. And this one says, Joseph tells his brothers, what you guys may have meant for bad, God meant it for good. And so to me, this is one of the best examples in the Bible of that particular verse that I love so much, because when I'm going through things, that calms me down. That put everything into perspective. When I'm going through challenges, I just think, okay, I know for some reason God has allowed me to go through this, so he's going to work it out for my good, whether I see it or not, or whether I see it at that time or he shows me later. Let me just do what is right by him and let him handle the rest, and he will. So that's one of the main things in this chapter that I really see. And another thing I thought about is about integrity. I thought about how when Jacob decided to go bury his father after his father had died, he went and told, or he sent messengers to tell Pharaoh or to ask Pharaoh if he could go. And I thought that was really good. He just didn't say, look, I'm going to do what I want to do. He was a person of integrity. He made sure he checked with Pharaoh and let him know what was going on. And Pharaoh really responded. So I saw really integrity in that. And it also made me think of, I've been in a spot before in my life where I was having a hard time paying my bills. And so what I did, and it seemed like I heard it somewhere, but a lot of people don't know about this. What I did was I called some of the people that I felt like I couldn't make that payment for that month, and I let them know, hey, I can't make the payment for this month, not the whole thing at least, but I can make partial payment and I can catch it up this way. I can pay you a little extra here and a little extra there, or I can pay this much, the first week, and I can pay you an additional on the third week. And every one of them that I called and I made a payment arrangement, they agreed. I know one was with the apartment complex I had moved out of, and I broke the lease, and one of them was with a utility company or something, but they allowed me to do that. And it was, I didn't shy away from what I owed them. I knew I owed them, but I called them and I asked them, could I do that? And they allowed me to do it, and it did not affect my credit. So to me, that's just how integrity works a lot of time. If you're honest with people, a lot of people really appreciate that. Instead of you trying to skirt the issue, they really appreciate that honesty and you walking in integrity. And there was one more thing that I thought about, but I forgot what it was. It was a third thing, but the video is almost up, so I'm going to end it right here. Thank you so much for listening to Weekday Wind Down with the Word, and you all have a blessed day. Bye.